The morning sun rises, whether we greet it with tears or laughter. The seasons change regardless of our readiness. Rain falls on the just and unjust alike. These simple truths point to something profound about the nature of existence itself. Life brings us both mountain peaks of joy and valleys of sorrow, often in the same day, sometimes in the same hour. The wisdom lies not in trying to avoid one while clinging to the other, but in learning to dance with both. This fundamental truth echoes through centuries of Buddhist teaching. The Buddha himself observed that life contains suffering, but he also recognized that suffering and joy are temporary visitors in the house of our experience. They come and go like clouds across the sky. The sky remains unchanged. Nichiren Daishonin expressed this beautifully when he wrote, "Suffer what there is to suffer. Enjoy what there is to enjoy. Regard both suffering and joy as facts of life, and continue chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo no matter what happens." These words carry the weight of profound wisdom earned through a lifetime of both triumph and persecution. Consider what happens when we try to push away suffering. We create more suffering. When a child falls and scrapes their knee, the pain is real but temporary. However, if they spend the rest of the day afraid to run and play, the temporary pain becomes lasting limitation. Similarly, when we resist the natural flow of difficult experiences, we transform momentary discomfort into prolonged anguish. The Lotus Sutra teaches us that all phenomena are temporary manifestations of the eternal Buddha nature. This includes both our joys and our sorrows. On the other side, when we grasp too tightly to moments of happiness, we create the seeds of future disappointment. Have you ever noticed how desperately trying to make a good time last forever can actually diminish the joy of the present moment? It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. The wise person learns to appreciate beautiful moments fully while understanding their impermanent nature. The practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo provides an anchor in this ocean of changing experiences. It's not a magic formula that eliminates all problems or guarantees constant happiness. Rather, it's a practice that develops our capacity to remain centered regardless of external circumstances. When Nichiren faced exile, imprisonment, and threats to his life, he didn't abandon his practice because his situation was difficult. Instead, he deepened his understanding through these experiences. Think of the practice like learning to ride a bicycle. At first, every wobble feels dangerous. Every hill seems insurmountable. But as we develop our balance and strength, we can navigate rough terrain with confidence. We don't stop pedaling when the road gets bumpy. In fact, maintaining steady momentum often helps us get through difficult patches more smoothly. The same principle applies to spiritual practice. Consistency during challenging times builds the inner strength that serves us throughout our lives. The Lotus Sutra contains a powerful parable about a burning house. A wealthy man's children are playing inside when the house catches fire. Rather than forcing them out, which might cause panic and injury, he calls to them about wonderful toys waiting outside. The children rush out safely, drawn by joy rather than driven by fear. This story illustrates how wisdom involves working with life's circumstances rather than against them. We don't have to be miserable during difficult times, nor do we need to feel guilty during happy ones. When Nichiren wrote about suffering what there is to suffer and enjoying what there is to enjoy, he was describing a mature spiritual response to life's inevitable ups and downs. This isn't passive resignation or shallow positive thinking. It's active engagement with reality as it is, not as we wish it were. A farmer doesn't rage against the winter or try to force crops to grow in frozen ground. Instead, they use winter as a time for planning, repairing equipment, and preparing for spring. They work with natural cycles rather than fighting them. The phrase, regard both suffering and joy as facts of life, contains deep wisdom about perspective. Facts are neither good nor bad in themselves, they simply are. When we label experiences as disasters or celebrations, we often miss the opportunity to learn from them. A business failure can teach valuable lessons about resilience and creativity. A personal loss can deepen our compassion and strengthen our relationships with others. A windfall of good fortune can provide opportunities to help others and develop gratitude. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering. This doesn't mean we shouldn't care about anything or become emotionally numb. Rather, it means we can engage fully with life while holding our experiences lightly. Picture a master archer. They aim carefully and release the arrow with complete commitment, but they don't chase after it or try to redirect it once it's in flight. They have done their part and now accept whatever result follows. The consistent practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, regardless of circumstances, develops this kind of spiritual maturity. It's like training for a marathon. Runners don't skip practice when the weather is bad or when they don't feel like exercising. They understand that consistency builds the endurance needed for the long race. Similarly, maintaining daily practice during both good times and hard times builds the inner strength needed for life's challenges. Consider how different our problems would seem if we approached them with the same calm attention we bring to solving a puzzle. When working on a jigsaw puzzle, we don't get angry at pieces that don't fit where we first try them. We simply try them somewhere else. Difficult pieces aren't enemies to be defeated, but challenges that make the completed picture more satisfying. The Lotus Sutra teaches that even our obstacles can become sources of enlightenment when we approach them with the right attitude. This perspective doesn't develop overnight. Like learning any skill, it requires patient practice and gentle persistence. We might find ourselves caught up in drama one day and remember to step back and chant the next. Each small victory in maintaining equanimity strengthens our spiritual muscles for future challenges. Nichiren himself went through periods of doubt and discouragement, but he always returned to his practice with renewed dedication. The beauty of this teaching lies in its practicality. It doesn't require us to retreat from the world or suppress our natural human emotions. Instead, it invites us to experience life more fully by releasing our desperate need to control outcomes. When we're not constantly fighting reality, we have more energy available for positive action and genuine enjoyment. A mother watching her child learn to walk experiences both anxiety and joy. She suffers when the child falls, but celebrates each successful step. She doesn't try to prevent all falls, knowing they're part of the learning process. She also doesn't minimize her joy when progress happens, understanding that encouragement helps the child develop confidence. This natural response models the wisdom of accepting both suffering and joy as necessary parts of growth. The practice of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo helps us access our own Buddha nature, that fundamental wisdom and compassion that exists within every person. When we chant consistently, we're not trying to become someone different. We're polishing the mirror of our true self until it reflects clearly. Sometimes the reflection shows us things we'd rather not see. Sometimes it reveals beauty we didn't know was there. Both revelations serve our spiritual development. Buddhist texts often compare the mind to water. When water is agitated, it cannot reflect clearly. When it becomes still, it perfectly mirrors whatever appears above it. Regular practice helps our minds achieve this natural stillness. From this centered place, we can respond to circumstances with wisdom, rather than simply react from habit or emotion. The directive to continue chanting, no matter what happens, acknowledges that life will test our resolve. There will be days when practice feels pointless, when problems seem overwhelming, when joy feels impossible to access. These are precisely the moments when persistence pays its greatest dividends. A lighthouse doesn't stop shining during storms. In fact, its light becomes most valuable when seas are roughest. This teaching also contains a subtle invitation to trust in the larger intelligence of life itself. When we can accept both pleasant and unpleasant experiences as expressions of the same fundamental reality, we begin to see patterns and connections that weren't visible before. What seemed like a devastating setback might later reveal itself as necessary preparation for an unexpected opportunity. A period of struggle might develop strength and compassion that serves us for years to come. The Lotus Sutra teaches that every person possesses the potential for enlightenment. This includes people experiencing great suffering and those enjoying great fortune. Neither condition permanently defines us or limits our spiritual development. The beggar and the king both have access to the same essential wisdom. External circumstances, while they certainly affect our daily experience, don't determine our ultimate spiritual worth or potential. Living this teaching transforms our relationship with uncertainty. Instead of demanding that life provide guarantees, we can learn to find excitement in not knowing what comes next. This doesn't mean being careless or failing to plan responsibly. Rather, it means holding our plans lightly, while remaining open to possibilities we haven't yet imagined. When we truly understand that both suffering and joy are temporary visitors, we can offer appropriate hospitality to each without being dominated by either. We can acknowledge pain without being consumed by it. We can appreciate pleasure without becoming addicted to it. This balanced approach creates space for genuine peace that doesn't depend on specific circumstances. The practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo provides a constant reminder of our connection to something larger than our individual concerns. Each repetition affirms our participation in the vast web of existence while strengthening our ability to remain centered within it. Like a tree with deep roots, we can bend with strong winds without breaking. This wisdom becomes particularly relevant during major life transitions. Whether facing the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, loss of employment, or unexpected windfalls, the principle remains the same. Neither the valley of despair nor the mountain of success represents our permanent address. We're travelers on a longer journey, and each stop along the way offers its own lessons and gifts. This teaching points us toward a life of genuine freedom. When we're no longer enslaved by the need to avoid all pain or secure all pleasure, we can make choices based on wisdom and compassion rather than fear and craving. We can take appropriate risks, form meaningful relationships, and pursue worthwhile goals without the desperate attachment that turns blessings into burdens. The simple instruction to continue chanting regardless of circumstances becomes a doorway into profound spiritual maturity. Through this practice, we discover that our essential nature is neither damaged by difficulties nor inflated by successes. Like the sun that shines equally on all things, our Buddha nature remains constant through all of life's changes. In recognizing this truth and living from it, we find the peace that surpasses understanding and the joy that no circumstance can steal.